So take Dairylea cheese spread. A 200-gram tub used to cost 99 pence at Sainsbury's, £1.15 at Morrison's and £1.28 at Asda. The pack is now a fifth smaller, but the price at the checkout has stayed the same. Another example is Fairy all-in-one dishwasher tablets. You used to get 28 in a pack, but that's now dropped to 26, while they remain £5 at Asda. Bernard Matthews turkey ham has shrunk by 40 grams to that should be 400 grams to 300 grams. Oh, I shrunk by 40 grams, I apologise, to 300 grams. But when you come to pay, you'll still be charged £2.66 at Asda. And there used to be 32 nappies in a bag of Pampers Baby Dry. There are now 2 less. Yet they're £6.49 at both Ocado and Morrison's, and the price at Asda has stayed the same. Well, manufacturers are likely to blame the difference on rising costs, and supermarkets we've spoken to say it's the manufacturers who decide on the size changes. But with shoppers' budgets getting tightened, there are calls for clearer pricing, so it's easier to tell if you are getting less for your money. Well, with me now, the financial journalist Jasmine Birtles, editor of the website moneymagpie.co.uk.
Hello.
I'm shocked. I mean, it's, yes. You do this research and it's going on. I've been buying nappies not knowing that they're taking 2 away from me all the time.
Well, absolutely. And the terrible thing is that, you know, we have complicated lives. We have a lot going on. We have a huge amount of information coming to us every day. It's extremely hard for anybody, let alone a busy mother, working mother, to go around with a spreadsheet, you know, or maybe even on your smartphone going, now, hold on a moment, you know, a year ago, how many nappies were in... Of course, you know, these are stealth price rises. And I think, essentially, manufacturers know that we are far too busy, we have too much to do to notice these things.
Yeah, I mean, some shops are quite good at displaying underneath, aren't they, how much you're actually getting for your money on things, so you can compare who's good and who's not so good at giving us as much information as they should.
Well, it's a very good point. Actually, it's, some of the, if you like, cheaper ranges, the cheaper supermarkets aren't quite as good as, if you like, the mid-range ones, who will give you, and this is something that I definitely look at, you know, per toilet
gram
sheet.
Or per sheet,
yes, exactly. And those are the things that you need to look at. But something that I would like to see more now, actually, is I'd like us to go back to those times, you know, when you had shops that had great big vats full of rice or big vats full of oats or something. So you would scoop it out. You would say to yourself, right, I want, you know, a few, however many 100 grams of this, and you see it yourself. Because, of course, you can do that with fruit and vegetables.
Yes.
And you used to do it with these sort of grains and whatever. And I think we're going to have to go back to that so that we personally know exactly how much we're getting and for what.
And good for lack of packaging as well,
yes,
presumably.
Absolutely.
Yeah, an added bonus.
Now, supermarkets do say that one of the reasons why they package up a lot more fruit and vegetables is they actually get a lot less wastage that way. And you can kind of see it, you know, you've got people picking over things. But actually for the consumer, it's far better to be buying raw, to be buying loose, as much as you possibly can.
Jasmine, what are the regulations like these days? Because we keep hearing of campaigns by the government, by the food agencies, of saying making things clearer when we go into supermarkets. But then, you know, I go to a supermarket, you've got something that says this is the best deal, and then you look at the next one and it's just slightly phrased differently, and you think, actually, that one's cheaper.
Well, do you know, in many ways, I think it's a bit like regulating the banks, frankly. You can put all these regulations in, you can put all these rules in, but the companies will always find a way of getting a little bit around them. I think ultimately it's our knowledge that will stop them so much. And I think now that we have smartphone technology, I wouldn't be at all surprised if some organisation, maybe which, will have people on a weekly, daily basis checking prices, checking this, that and the other, and they will send us information. I mean, there's a business idea for somebody who could create an app that's saying, well, actually, have you noticed Pampers has reduced their ones by 2, so go for this. I think it's going to have to be our knowledge helped by technology that will stop rather than just regulation.
But as you say as well, it's, you know, they might be cheaper in one supermarket for this week and next week,
Yes.
but the time for doing these things,
Exactly.
you don't have it. So
No.
you rely on people. What sort of people get in touch with your website and are confused by going shopping? And why have my bills over the past
Yes.
6 months gone up by, you know, I used to pay £60 for my shopping and now it's 80.
Yes, exactly, and it's mothers primarily. You know, it's mothers that get in touch with Money Magpie. It's mothers that are out there primarily thinking, how am I going to cope? And they are cutting back, and they are cutting back. According to research, and this is by various different organisations, the amount that we're spending on food has stayed the same, actually. But what we're doing is we're cutting out, you know, you're not having the prawns, you're not having the strawberries, all these sort of things. So we're going more and more basic. And there's only so much you can do with that. And I think the parents are having a very difficult time because they're having to really think, you know, are we going to heat or are we going to eat? What sort of things are we going to eat? How cheaply can we do this? And at the same time give nutritional meals. It's very, very difficult for families.
Yeah, it is difficult. You have to be aware. Jasmine, thank you for talking to us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Now, mankind's closest relative is in danger of being wiped out. The population of bonobos has dramatically diminished over the past 30 years as they fall victim to poachers and habitat loss. Sky's Tom Parminter travelled to the Democratic Republic of Congo, the only place in the world where the apes can be found in their natural habitat.
Country into our Westminster newsroom today. We're going to be talking to people from all walks of life about what the budget means to them. And also, we want to hear from you as well. We want you to send us your questions about the budget, whether it's about tax credits or pensions or fuel duty or stamp duty. Whatever it is, we want to hear from you. And we're going to put as many of those questions as we can to our personal finance experts, Roddy Cohn and Jasmine Birtles, who are here with me today. And let's have a quick chat with you both before the budget gets underway. Jasmine, we've already heard from George Osborne that he wants this to be a budget for working people. But what does that mean? Who's actually going to benefit today, do you think?
Well, I think everybody who pays tax should benefit because apparently he's going to raise the basic tax threshold. Sadly, probably not to the £10,000 that I was hoping for and the Liberal Democrats were hoping for, but at least around 9,000. And then if he does drop the rate of tax for the very much higher earners, that could, I would hope, have a knock-on effect so that it would mean that the higher earners who are creating businesses, who are creating jobs for others, will stay, will create more jobs. That's a little
interrupting Anna Jones
but...
there. Sorry, Anna. Sorry to cut across you there, but we like this shot, don't we? Well, it happens every year, of course. And well, smiling rather beatifically there, the Chancellor. Anna.
Dermot, thank you. Yes, let's get some reaction from those personal finance experts and find out what they think this budget is going to do to your pocket. Jasmine Birtles and Roddy Cohn are both here with me. Jasmine, first of all, we heard George Osborne talk about it being a budget for business, a budget that helps those working and looking for work. But what about those who aren't working? What about the pensioner?
Yeah, it's not good news for pensioners. Although up to now, pensioners have had a higher personal tax threshold than working people. Now, their tax threshold is being frozen. So in effect, they're not going to increase the amount that they're getting. And this particularly is a problem because the pensioners' inflation rate is generally higher than the CPI. So I think in real terms, this is very bad news for pensioners.
Well, yes, and we've had an email in from Philip G. Taylor who says it's surely time for the Grey majority to become an active political pressure group.
Yes.
So clearly some of our viewers not too happy about it. Roddy, the Chancellor has been insisting, hasn't he, today, that he's trying to simplify the pensions system.
Yes, he has, and yet at the same time, as usual, as we've seen in budget after budget, the devil's always in the detail, isn't it? And what we're finding now is that as we explore more of the detail, these little snippets of information where if you're over 65 and you had this age-related allowance, you were probably enjoying roughly an extra £750 a year. But now, because of the changes as set out in the budget, you're likely to lose that. Now, that's supposedly going to affect about £3 billion worth of allowances. So, in other words, enormous numbers of pensioners are adversely affected by it. And, of course, this is not really, then, for most people, simplification with a benefit. This is just simplification simplification with actually a benefit to the government.
Now, some pensioners are lucky enough to have savings as well. Now, we know that interest rates have been very low, but is there anything to try and boost savings for individuals?
Yeah, there's potentially some changes to the way that tax is charged against your interest that you earn in a deposit account. So for many people who save money in deposit accounts, they typically have to pay tax on that interest in the account straight away. It looks as though the budget's proposing a reform to that legislation, where if, for example, you're within this very important personal allowances that the government have been going on about, you may actually be able to earn your interest without any tax being deducted, and therefore that will be at least a modicum of benefit to you in the longer term, as that interest is not taxed.
And Jasmine, clearly the reason that the government is making these changes is the Treasury wants to get more money in. We've seen some tax cuts for the higher earners, for the 50p tax rate going, for example, and the increase in the personal allowance as well. The Treasury wants some money back.
Well, yes, that's basically it. And this, let's be honest, it's stealth rises. And I think it is quite sad that it's pensioners who are effectively being hit. Because not only that, of course, but the age at which we're going to retire, that will be going up, because he's talking about bringing that up together with longevity, which makes sense, of course, but it's just, you know, an added problem for those who are about to become retired or thinking of retiring later on.
And Roddy, what happens as far as compulsion is concerned as well, about people having to sign up to pension schemes?
Yeah, that's right. There's a thing called Nest which is coming about, and what that means is people who are in work are going to be forcibly told they've got to join their employer's pension scheme. Increasingly that will mean they have to pay at least, at the starting level is 1% of their salary, and that will rise over the years that they contribute to the pension scheme. And I think this is another thing when people are hard pressed, and this is why a lot of the emails coming into Sky, people are talking about the fact that they're already hard pressed with their money, whether it's their savings not earning enough interest, whether it's the fact that they haven't had pay rises for 4 years. And this is happening across the country. And in that sense, you can understand why people are so infuriated and frustrated with George Osborne's announcement that higher rate tax will be reduced down by 5 pence from 50p to the 50% to 45%. So for many people, I think a lot of the hidden taxes within this budget are going to come to light over the next few hours, days and weeks ahead.
Well, clever, isn't it, this television business? Yeah, we've been asking for lots of emails from you as well as tweets as well, and we've had an awful lot of questions from you as well as concerns and a few grumbles as well. Let's put some of them to our personal finance expert who's here with me, Jasmine Birtles. Hello, Jasmine. We're getting questions on a range of subjects, but let's just narrow down to a few issues. There are some people who are losing their child benefit because they have an earner in their house that earns over £50,000 who have questions about their pension. Let me just put this question to you. Dave B from Staffordshire has sent us a message via Twitter saying, do stay-at-home mums who lose child benefit also lose the pension credits protection that they get with child benefit?
Well, in effect, yes, you can. Yes, that's called the Home Responsibilities Protection, HRP, and you automatically get it if you have child benefit. So if you're losing that, you still have to apply for child benefit, even though you're not going to get it, essentially so that you get yourself on the radar, so that you will get the full pension when you retire.
Few people concerned about what's happening to pensions as a result of this budget. We've also had a specific question from Bill Turton who asks, I note that there'll be an automatic age review for state pensioners. Is there anything definitive in the budget to suggest what the new state pension age will or could be and what the effective date would be?
Well, no, I think they are reviewing it. It's happening a lot faster than anybody expected. Happily, we are living a lot longer and we're doing it far quicker. So I think it's something that's under review. We may find out by the end of this year what it's going to be, but you know, we don't know yet what the actual age will be and when it will actually be enforced.
Now, clearly there are people who benefit from this this budget, particularly people who are going to lose, have their personal allowance raised. So anyone, some of the lower earners will benefit, and in fact most people paying income tax. However, there are concerns about pensioners. Do we know how much worse off they might be?
Well, it's difficult to say individually, but the National Association of Pension Funds, I see here, has said that over the course of the Parliament, pensioners stand to lose over $2 billion in age-related tax. Now, I'm not sure how they've worked out that, but I'm guessing it's because of the personal allowance being frozen, and also, of course, for older people, their personal inflation is much higher than the average. The sort of things they buy is going up much faster, and they're using, you know, things like health-related costs, carers, all those kinds of things. So I think they are saying that in real terms, maybe in cash terms it's not changing, but in real terms, pensioners are going to lose in the next few years.
OK, Jasmine Birtles, for the moment, thanks very much indeed. Well, as well as talking to our personal finance experts,